Our first movie is Back to the Future Part 2, and this is one of the goofiest movies I've seen in a long time. A convoluted comedy about two time travelers who mess up the future and go back to the past to try to patch things up and make them come out right. Back to the Future Part 2 is not as good as the original 1985 film. It doesn't have the genuine human emotion of the earlier film when Fox tries to fix up a date between his own parents so that he'll be born, but it is a goofy and screwball movie, and I enjoyed it for what it is rather than in comparison with the earlier film.
Well, I had the same reaction to the comparison of the two. The first film had a heart to it, and I don't think there's any reason why a screwball comedy couldn't take time out to have heart. In other words, I think this film would have been helped a great deal if it had a little heart to it. I think it would have been true to the original picture. Instead, I found this to be very gadget-filled and really noisy in an unpleasant way, so that when I was watching it, I was seeing a lot of slapstick, a lot of racing around, and the character of Biff, the enemy of Michael J. Fox, is really the star of this second picture. I think the movie could have been called Biff in a way, because it's really, he dominates the whole action. And the Michael J. Fox character and his relationship with his parents, that's really just not there. The father isn't even there. And so I really found it kind of unpleasant to watch in a way. And I was looking forward to it, but I didn't enjoy it at all.
Okay, I want channels 18, 24, 63, 109, 87, and the Weather Channel.
Weather Channel bringing you world weather in 24 hours. And weather conditions remain defined.
Plant surgeon Dr. Hadley
With a minor warm front.
Welcome home, Marky.
Hey, Dad's home. That's right, he's home, Dad's home.
Lord of the manor.
Hello.
King of the castle.
Hello. What the hell is this?
lithium mode on.
Yeah, it's better. Damn kids. Hey, son. Watching on TV for a change?
Marchy McFly, Marchy McFly. Year 6 of Marchy McFly. Ready or not, Year 6 of Marchy McFly. I'm back, great Scott. It's Year 6. 31 straight days for you. In Year 6. It's Back to the Future Part 2. Every day. Gonna have a little talk of Marty and Doc. Marty and Doc. Marty and Doc. Marty and Doc. Marty and Doc.
Da-da-dee-da-da-doo, ba-da-bee-ba-boo, bee-boo-bee, it's day 10. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Happy day 10 of March, day 10 of Marchy McFly, day 10 of Marchy McFly 6. Yes, I'm here for the 10th straight day talking to you about Back to the Future, Part 2. I wouldn't say I'm an Ebert, but I wouldn't say I'm a Siskel. I feel like I'm somewhere in between. I'm probably more an Ebert, where he's forgiving the movie for some of the zaniness. Maybe it's... Siskel didn't like it at all. Siskel was always a little harder on movies, I feel like, than Ebert. Ebert was much more forgiving. I think my buddy Dave used to call me and my brother Siskel and Ebert because we went to so many movies and we liked to talk about them even before the world of podcasts. Podcasts are there for the average, person, the hobbyist podcaster, that they're there for all of us kids who grew up talking to each other about movies, and now we're just, talking to nobody in particular, or everybody in particular. I know I'm talking to you right now, so that's something. Like, there is no doubt in my mind right now. It's 100% factual. I am talking to you right now. You chose this podcast. You chose this moment. You're still here. Hopefully you'll stick around. And that means that you're hearing my voice. It could be now. It can't be in the past. That's the one thing that I can't do that Doc and Marty can do. It can only be in the future. So who knows how far in the future you're listening to this? Could it be hours from now? Could it be days from now, months, years, maybe even further? Who knows? Maybe Marchy McFly 8. Could there actually be an 8? I don't know. Maybe Marchy McFly 8, let's just say just for shits and giggles, there's 2 years from now and you're like, what's this show? I got to go back and listen to it. And then you just marathon it and the whole thing, first 7 years. And you're like, what have I done? And then you unsubscribe, and that's fine. That's fine. I'm glad you came along for the ride in the first place. So I did, I'm almost positive I did that Siskel and Ebert clip back in Marchy McFly 2. I edited it down. Basically, I got Ebert's introduction, then they talked about the movies, and then I went right back to kind of them giving their quick opinions, and I just edited it right where Siskel said that he didn't like it. I should put a link to the entire video in the show notes, and I will have to remind myself to do that. But as much as I, rag on this movie, and there will be some of that coming today, there's still, it's part nostalgia, part, like actual enjoyment, and, the criticism of getting older and I guess maturing, or I don't know if I have a slightly better eye than I did when I was 13 as far as viewing content and media. Look, I still like a lot of stuff that I liked when I was a kid, music-wise, movies-wise, and it's unforgiving. It's, in other words, I'm not going to apologize for what I like or what I don't like, whether, the masses agree or not. But even, looking, the joy of this movie is, I don't even know where I was going with this. I think I was going to say that I still enjoy it, even though I'm looking at it now more with a critical eye. I don't know. It felt like it made sense to me at the time when I was saying it. And there will be part of that tonight, specifically with Mrs. McFly herself. No, not Jennifer McFly, but I'm talking about Lorraine Baines McFly, who really is underserved in the future. But again, better off than George. I don't think George says another line. He just kind of floats around upside down. He's basically legs. They basically just want to show his legs for the most part. It is so bad. They're like, well, George is there. He's just upside down so we don't have to look at him and realize it's not Crispin Glover. I mean, it is so obvious. And I don't know if he said a line this whole 3 minutes and 20 seconds. And I'm hoping that Jeffrey Weissman didn't have to do this entire scene. I hope they had like a stunt man who doesn't mind having blood rushing to his brain, because there's a certain point where I feel bad for the actor who has to do this, who's doing I don't know if by 1985 to 1989, George McFly was considered quote unquote an iconic role, but I do feel like in the decades to come, people have loved that character, and I think they realize how he was basically the heart and the star, and to me the best part of the first movie. Yeah, obviously Marty and Doc, but George was he was the star. To me, he was like the main character that Marty had to maneuver around. Marty's life changed, and Marty and Doc's situation didn't change. Marty didn't change. He didn't grow. In fact, we don't know what the original Marty looked like. I'm going back to last year. This new Marty that all of a sudden shows up in the new 1985, our Marty, did not grow up with the luxury of this family that he knows here. So he could be a real jerk to them. They're going to be like, why is Marty so cynical? Why does Marty act like this? The Marty that we had was such a sweet boy. And now this Marty's here and he's he's a complete asshole. Like there is that thought of that because George really had the major character turn in the first movie. In this movie, George does nothing and there is no character turn. Now you could say, I'll go back again. You could say Lorraine had a major character turn in the first movie. I will say yes and no. I will say, yeah, kind of. But when she was younger, she was, she was fun. She was like a nice, popular, pretty, confident teenager who then the George McFly of it all and those 3 rotten kids she had kind of brought life down. And no one was there to tell her, don't drink or don't smoke. What you gonna do? Don't drink, don't smoke. What you gonna do? I don't know why I just said that. But Marty was there to maybe to change George for the better. George turned into this confident guy because of Marty. That wasn't there before. And Lorraine didn't turn in. That allowed Lorraine to stay who she was already. So that's why I think George has the biggest turn in the first movie. In this movie, there's none of that. There's no turn. There's no, and if I'm repeating myself, it's because I just hit edit and I was like, oh, I screwed up and I went back. So who knows if this even makes sense or if I'm just repeating myself. But in this movie, there's things change, but there's no character gets to be like better off for it in the end, like who becomes a better version of himself or a more confident, happier version of himself. There's none of that in this movie. And in fact, all we kind of see is a depressing side of the McFlys. And it's not terribly depressing. It's not like it's down in the dumps, even though, again, Hilldale feels like it's a dangerous place. I feel like I'm all over the place trying to get my thoughts out, and hopefully they make sense. So why don't we just not waste any more time and jump into these 3 minutes and 20 seconds. We pick up with, again, George just hanging upside down like an idiot. Marlene, the McFly daughter, and Lorraine. And to me, Lorraine's job in the future is just to provide exposition to the situation because, like, she just happens to be randomly telling Marty's daughter again, I'm sure she's told this story many times, about I can't be chicken and the car accident that I'm sure they already know about it, but they say it all for the audience and for Jennifer to hear it in the closet. And she's like, oh, with the Rolls Royce? Like, yes, now we know that too. Like, I hate that kind of dialogue where they're saying it just for our sake. And there's a lot of that. And there's even a worse. It's like, we see that for a second, but it gets worse. But first we jump out and we see Doc and Marty land at Hilldale. And it says Hilldale, the address of success. But I think part of success is crossed out and it just says the address of suck. But Marty doesn't see it this way. Marty is like, I live in Hilldale. Like, this is great. Way to go, McFly. He is so happy that he lives there because, again, it looks like a fairly nice place. It doesn't look like it's like run over criminals or anything like that. It just maybe isn't as fancy as the rest of the quote unquote future. So they land and, this thought never entered my brain until just now. I've watched this movie so many times. And yes, taking Jennifer out of the car made no sense. You know what else doesn't make any sense? Taking Einstein out of the car here. Why does Doc bring Einstein with him? He leaves Marty at the car. He says, we're going to go get Jennifer. You change your clothes. We'll be right back. So I don't know why he's doing. Oh, maybe so that Jennifer doesn't see the clothes. That makes perfectly good sense. No, it doesn't matter. She knows she's in the future. Too bad. There's no reason to change the clothes. But Marty's looking around. He's really happy. And you remember that taxi? Remember that taxi that Doc was afraid might be following them? He doesn't seem worried about it now. When you could turn around and see that the taxi actually did follow them. It's not like literally 10 seconds after Doc leaves, a taxi pulls up. Nobody pays attention. Like, you feel like if you're out quiet in the dark in a future you're not supposed to be in, maybe you'd have your head in a swivel. Maybe Marty would turn and see the taxi. Nope. Never turns around once to see the taxi and to see old man Biff. We see Marty changing his friggin' shoes right now as Biff gets out of the car. He doesn't turn his head once to the left. It's like my mother-in-law. Like, I see her sometimes walking her dog, and I will drive by with my car, and I will look, and her head is just going straight at, like there's no peripheral vision to look and go, oh, there's my son-in-law. Like, I'm waving, and no, nothing. That's what Marty's doing here. He does not turn at all, which is just bonkers beyond belief. Really just clunky plot here. I do like that the cab fare was $174.50, and Biff pays it like it's nothing. Pays it with his thumbprint, which is very close to like paying with your phone or your watch today. You know, the tap to pay. I feel like that's coming if it's not already there, the barometric payment systems. Is it barometric? Is that what it's called when you use like your thumbprint or your eyes? I feel like there is some countries that do use that. And it is already in Hill Valley. For some reason, this cab driver has a parrot. I don't know why. I think it's kind of just, you know, I guess just to add to some character building for who this guy is. I do like that he's like, I'd be careful all the time. This is a rough neighborhood. It doesn't look that rough, but it must be just like it's in the eye of the beholder. Like, this is how the world looks at Hilldale. It sees it as a rough neighborhood. Doesn't seem that way. Definitely not as rough as the 1985 Hill Valley that we're going to see in a few days. But for some reason, it doesn't seem like anybody thinks that Hilldale is nice. Marty does, though. So right after Biff pays for the cab, we get my favorite shot in this whole scene where Biff backs up. Now, why does he back up? He backs away from the car. That makes sense. But he really backs up, I think, to make this shot possible. So we see the real taxi pulling away from Biff. Then Biff stands there, doesn't move, and the taxi starts passing behind Biff. And then Biff starts walking, and then on the other side of Biff is the digital, composite special effects version of the taxi flying away. It looks seamless, but Biff is the seam. Like, it's like we talked about the door originally with Biff and Biff interacting with each other, and Griff, I should say, interacting with each other. Well, this is how, without cutting the shot, it looks like the taxi just flies away. And I think as a kid, I thought there must be like a track there or something. Nope, it's just two different shots, and Biff. They do this a few times in this movie, and it's really well done. I thought it was just a cool little shot here that you wouldn't even pay attention to. You just wouldn't. You're probably looking at Biff, and the taxi flies away, and I loved it. So then we cut back, and we get the worst exposition in the entire movie, where Lorraine says, and I quote, "That accident caused a chain reaction that sent Marty's life straight down the tube." She's telling this to, I guess, Marty's daughter, saying Marty, not saying your father. And I guess George is there, not saying your son, but just say my son, sent our son. But to say Marty just seems not realistic. But she says it sent Marty's life straight down the tubes. Straight down the tubes. You're saying that in front of his children. So in other words, she says, if not for the accident, your father's life would have turned out very differently. In other words, he wouldn't have had you bastard. She's saying this in front of the children, in front of his daughter. She's saying, his life really sucks. He hates it. That accident that happened when he was 17 ruined his life. And now he has to live with you assholes. She said the man with the Rolls Royce wouldn't have pressed charges. Marty wouldn't have broken his hand, and he wouldn't have given up on his music, and he wouldn't have spent all those years feeling sorry for himself. They really made Marty seem like a loser. So Biff was right telling Marty Jr. that his old man, Martin McFly Sr., is a loser who flushed his whole life down. I don't know why Biff knows this. I guess the accident was big in the news when someone he knows son, I guess, got in a big accident. It was probably in the news. But the fact that a broken hand, Rick Allen right now is watching this going, are you bloody kidding me? A broken hand, give up on your own life? Rick Allen lost an arm, and he's a drummer, and he's still drumming for Def Leppard today. The man revolutionized, how a drum kit could work with pedals, and Def Leppard was like, oh, you lost your arm, mate. All right, rehearsals in 2 weeks. Get ready for it, brother. Like, Marty's like, I broke my hand when I'm 17. I'm giving up on music. Maybe Biff is right. Maybe Marty is a loser. A broken hand. Look, a broken hand could be bad, I guess. And, we see Marty try to play the guitar. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I broke my arm. I guess it's not your hand. And I don't know if I was as good as Marty was when he was at the Pinheads, but I play guitar and I still do. And I feel like you can come back from a broken hand. It might hurt. It might need a lot of physical therapy, but he was young. That is such a lame storyline. That is such a flat, lame storyline. And the fact that Lorraine is telling it to his daughter like she's never heard it and like it's not insulting to her is just criminal. And we're getting to the end of 2015. We're getting to the end of the complaints, but there's more. More are coming. So get ready for it because, I see George put his hand through his hair, but he doesn't actually say anything. I like when Marty Jr. gets home. He basically, his head is so far up his own ass that he doesn't even realize that's not, his actual mother. That's the 17-year-old version of his mother. Hey, Mom, nice pants. And she's like, now, by the way, Jennifer's right there. Like right there. Nobody notices that Jennifer is eavesdropping. So she backs away into a closet. And before, when I was talking about the scene screen, I thought that was the TV. It's not the TV. Now we see in the McFly house, they have a giant flat screen, widescreen HD television. Now the TV is in HD, but they didn't have that then. But that's what we're looking at here. And that did foretell the future more than the Jumbotron that news station talked about. We talked about that earlier last week. But I like that Marty puts on all these different channels, and it's a little bizarre because one of the channels shows an advertisement. First it says bottoms up, and then it looks like we see actual women's breasts. Now it's a cartoon version, but it is women's breasts. And then it looks like an infomercial, and it says the super inflatable tit. Yes, the super inflatable tit. And then you can also get the headlight tit, and it shows a woman where her bosom gets bigger, and then it shows her bosom lighting up. Yes, that is there. There's also like a parachute, a bomb going off. The Weather Channel looks like prisoners and maybe a cartoon, but let's not gloss over. Bottoms up, the super inflatable tit. So, it is very bizarre who programmed those channels. That is just bizarre. But I do love that he puts all those channels down and just sits down. And then we get the entrance of Marty McFly, 47-year-old Marty McFly, that I'm going to say looks about 60. I have friends who are well into their 50s now, and they do not look as old as this asshole. I am 2 years older than Marty is supposed to be here. And while I don't look as boyishly handsome as I did at 17, nobody looks like this. Is this what 47 looked like when we were kids? It does seem like older people, like, I feel like Wilford Brimley was actually like 30 when he did Cocoon. I know that's not true, but that's crazy. Oh, so Marty goes in and we get a shot that I actually do quote. I've quoted all the time when I'd be like, I'm home. And then I would do Lord of the Manor, King of the Castle. Like, he's home and nobody seems to care. In the future, people wear two ties. This is the first time we saw this kind of, a little, like, everything else looks normal in what Marty's wearing as far as a suit. He's got a briefcase and, but he wears two ties. No idea why. We don't know what his job is exactly. But I do love that he goes over and sees Marty Jr. and he says, watching a little TV for a change. On the screen now, we see U.S. Air Vietnam and that same image of the two people serve Vietnam. So they're really pushing the fact that U.S. and Vietnam Vietnam is like a destination for vacations. So they're pushing that. I thought that was interesting. So we'll go back to Marty, and Doc tells him, stay with the car. I will go get, it says the address of sucks. S-U. They didn't cross out success. They put a K and an S. Or does it say suckers? Oh, maybe that's what it says. The address of suckers, K and an R. Interesting. So anywho, Doc told Marty to stay put, and he brought Einstein to go get Jennifer, right? I mentioned that, and I complained about that. Now Marty can't help himself. He sees a dog being walked by an automatic dog walker, and he wanders off. And why did they take Einstein out of the car? So that he could wander off, so that the car could be left alone. That's the only reason why Einstein wouldn't have stayed in the car. I'm going to go get Jennifer. You stay with Einstein. Why would he bring his friggin' dog with him? Except they need the car to be empty because they need a convenience for the story to progress. It's clunky, and I never really thought about it right now, and I hate it. Now, Marty is barely away. He is barely away, and he's turning and looking at the houses. Biff creeps up, gets right into the car. I guess you don't need a key, or they left the key in the car. He gets in the car. Marty's right there. You could see Marty kind of looking around. No, maybe he doesn't notice anything yet, but he's standing right there, and the goddamn DeLorean takes off and backs up. Marty doesn't notice a thing. The DeLorean smashes into garbage, into a garbage bin, and it is, like a big, I can't even think of it, a dumpster. And Marty could have turned his head and go, hey, wait a second, the DeLorean. Nope, nothing. The car flies off, and Marty doesn't even pay attention. Now, I don't know. Look, we know what happens with Biff. But how the hell does that happen? He gets into a car that he's never seen before. He sees all these doodads, and he just kind of, I guess it's intuitive enough that he figures out, I guess turn this here, and then just hit this in. And now what do I do? Maybe just go faster. That car was going fast when it took off. Maybe I go fast. I don't know. It just seems really dumb. So we see the car just fly off into the night because Biff could do that. He's 77, but he figures out how to, use a time machine that he's never seen before. And then we cut back into the household, and we see another thing that was always, I always thought was really cool. Lorraine is ripping open a tiny tin that says Pizza Hut. And it looks like this little foil wrapper. She opens it up, and she puts this cute little pizza that looks like it's made out of Play-Doh on a plate. And Marty Jr.'s like, oh, pizza. And he goes, when it's done, just shove it in my mouth. And I hear Marty Jr. go, don't be a wise ass or something like that. Don't be an idiot. I forget what he says exactly, but it is kind of funny hearing Michael J. Fox do both voices. Lorraine puts this tiny pizza on a big silver platter, a big like metal cookie sheet, pizza sheet, whatever you want to say. Puts it in the Black & Decker, product placement, Black & Decker hydrator, closes it up, and that's the end of the 3 minutes and 20 seconds. We see some of that foil on the back of Lorraine's hand. That's their way of making her look older, even though her hand looks pretty young there, except for the foil on it. Like her fingers look pretty young. She's supposed to be 77. She has good hands for a 77-year-old. But that is this segment of Back to the Future 2. The big complaints are Lorraine's exposition dump and the fact that they took Einstein out of the car for no reason. And they, and then Marty walks away and nobody notices behind them anything going on with Biff. So that's annoying. The things I did like, I continue to like the fact that Marty thinks Hilldale is great and a great place to live because it probably was when he grew up. And it still looks pretty nice, but everyone else around them tells him that place is a dump. You need to stay out of there. Be careful, old man. And they changed the sign out like that. And I love the shot of the taxi leaving behind Biff and turning from a practical car to a digital effect and doing it pretty seamlessly. I thought that was really cool. Again, remember, this is 1989 when this was put out. It's not like now where any television commercial can do that. People can probably do it on their phone now. But this is, it was a pretty cool shot. A very cool shot. And I always loved it. I love seeing how they come up with solutions. Like, that's the thing that you lose in movies nowadays. When growing up, you'd see these pretty amazing things and you'd be like, how did they do that? Like, how did this happen? Like, you'd watch something and be like, they would add smoke in the air to make it look like they were underwater. Like some movies nowadays, everything can be done on a computer. There's no more, there's like, ooh, that looks cool. Ooh, that looks realistic, but it's not, how the hell did they do that? And that is the part of movie magic that growing up made me fall in love with movies and special effects. It made me, start when I went to school. I was a film major for a whole year before moving on to computers, which is kind of funny, the irony of me talking about computers and movies. But it was for website stuff, obviously. Look at me now. Look at me now. I made it. But the idea of always wondering how they did that and watching behind the scenes to see the special effects. Kids nowadays with movies, you don't see that. You'll see, look at all these people and all their servers, and this took hours and hours to render this one shot. Oh, that's great. In my day, they had to friggin', glue something to someone's head and then rip it off and then have them upside down. I know there's still a lot of practical effects out there, which I love, but, I guess that's just my way of saying I love that shot. It is a mix of practical and digital and really well done. Really well done. Speaking of done, I'm done. But I'll be back again tomorrow to talk more Back to the Future Part 2. And I think this is it. I believe this is our final segment in 2015. We never, ever, ever return to it again. And we'll never discuss it again either. But we will be talking about it tomorrow. And again, I hope you're here with me because I'll be back probably around the same time. It's usually when I do it at night. But until then, you can follow me on all the socials at Geek Mentality except TikTok, which is Geek Mentality Mike. You can follow Facebook page, which is Fans Not Experts, the YouTube channel, which is Fans Not Experts, and of course the website, which is fansnotexperts.com. That's it. I'm done. I'll see you tomorrow, buttheads. But until then, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And here is my theme song. This is my podcast. I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe. 'Cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time. And I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode. Fans Not Experts.